So tonight I worked on a little bit more of the theory. And I've been playing a lot with the idea of demigods and what that means, right? And the concepts of order and chaos. Right. So as I've developed the theory further, what I've come to the realization is that there really are two fundamental gods of the universe. And this transcends basically all religions and faiths, right? Most faiths and religions have that idea of both a figure of order and a figure of chaos, destruction and creation, and they are intimately related. And I think it's a mistake to believe that the two are at war when really the two are closer to lovers. Anybody that's been in a marriage or a lover or a close relationship or roommates or something to that extent understands that there's this dance that tends to happen. And that there's this, that the conflict breeds growth, development, and new things. I think artists intimately understand this, right? They understand this fact that through suffering and chaos births new creation and life and ideas. This is an idea that is central to the conflict between order and chaos. They're not at war, they're in a dance. They are the mother and father of existence, and it is through their connection and their relationship that ideas, life, and exchanges are birthed. We see them interact. And so I've been really toying with this idea, though I do think the children tend to fight with each other, just like children fight for their parents' affection. And they tend to always overcompensate and go further than they should. But there's this battle that wages between the two. And as they take on different roles, whether that be time or the various gravity or forces of the universe, right? Kronos versus Atlas, they engage with our reality. And chaos itself is an insidious force in the existence of humans because humans are, if we are the children of God, we are creatures of order. And it is our instinct to try to order the universe. We make tools, we engage, we reduce, we expand, we build. Humans themselves seem to be creatures of order, or at least for the most part. In one of my videos explaining stories, I get very interested in the idea of evil. And if evil can be seen, because I think evil is rather insidious, right? The children of chaos are hidden. Christian mythology is so fascinating with this because Lucifer himself is a creature of light. Right? He's not a pitchforked, large-nosed red man as much as he is God's favored being of truth. He's the morning star. Chaos comes in the form of a silver tongue, and it rips apart what is there. And sometimes chaos is needed. Revolution, change, disruption. We've seen that over and over again through revolutions, through the rise of oppressed people to claim their freedom. So within a society, we see this exchange between order and chaos and creation. It's interesting, even the American political structure is built around this idea, right? Order, conservatism. Conservatism is based around the idea of order. This stems from the philosophy of Edmund Burke, right? A British philosopher who successfully predicted the negative outcomes of the French Revolution and understood that liberty without foundational orderal concepts was meant for just utter annihilation. And liberalism, which is based on the concept of change and progression and disruption, art. These two things play an intimate dance with each other. That's why I tend to lean towards the middle. I like to watch the two play, though I do tend to lean a little bit more towards one than the other. Regardless, if we want new things to come into being, it comes through disruption. This is the basis of art. And so, interestingly, I would argue that true art in and of itself is a disruptive act. It is chaos made into order. The artist is an intermediary, right? It engages with the unknown, with the chaos, with the disruption, and makes order out of it. Propaganda isn't art. Propaganda is order forced into symbols. Regardless, I'm fascinated by this idea. I'm fascinated by the idea of the dance between the two and how that stimulates the development of ideas within a system. And so as I'm writing, I'm really playing with this idea. Can we ever come to understand how these two engage? Is it possible to harness that? Can we use that as social workers, those of us who engage in the helping professions, to increase the livelihood of individuals? Because what actually I think it all boils down to is individual stories and their myths. I think people care less about themselves than they do about their stories, their legacy, what they evolve into, the myth of the individual. Our stories are what matters. This is the premise behind narrative therapy. And in a postmodern world, the idea is that there are no true stories, or at least there are no definable truths. There are just stories that we come to understand that represent our existence in this battle between order and chaos. And this is really complicated. You know, one of the other ideas that comes into this, the other is that order keeps things the way they are, but chaos binds. When a group of individuals suffer together, they create a bond. But if you've heard the stories of people that are shipwrecked on an island, or oppressed groups, or revolutions, right? I mean, these individuals, through their mutual suffering, come together because they need their mutual tools to survive the suffering, survive the chaos, and make order out of it to survive. And so I believe it is through chaotic existence that groups come to engage and build a mutual identity. This is really complicated and really difficult to understand, because the suffering of a group you do not exist to is almost impossible to understand. And if you think it is, I challenge you, go into a bar, group, area, place of people that are vastly different than you, that have experienced vastly different suffering, and try to explain how you understand. You'll get looked at like an ass. Likewise, it's in the same way. Try to remember a time where you explained your pain to another individual. And they said, "Oh, I get it," and then explained how they totally don't get it. It's infuriating. Because our pain and suffering is where we forge and create our identities and our group identities, our tribes. So if we're going to understand society and how society forms so that we can help develop and understand it, it all stems from this idea of mutual suffering. Because through that, the various environmental factors that require heroic deeds to succeed and engage with come into fruition. So I suppose the next piece of the outline is suffering, mutual suffering. What is it? Where is it? And how does that form us?